listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Hey everyone, welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh, glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're with us. Let's adjust my microphone here real quick. And we're going to have a great show today. Thanks for being with us. Glad to be here with you. Lots going on. We have the coroner's report out from the death of Ward 2 Councillor Michael Vagnini yesterday. And nothing to see here. It's deemed medical causes, and only the family will know the details. So we'll have more details on the non-details on that story on this show. We'll also have condolences going out to another councillor, city councillor, Jerry Montpellier, who passed away yesterday as well. So 2 councillors in a little over 2 weeks passed away from the greater city of Sudbury. And we'll be talking about that and what does that mean for Sudbury? A lot of things, what does it mean for Sudbury? What is Sudbury anyways? Like, there's a lot of telling things when you have stories like this that are Sudbury-centric and maybe world-centric or Canadian-centric as well. We're not sure. But we asked the questions on the show. That's what we're going to do. We had Peter Glass, who was commenting yesterday of why aren't we finding out all the things on the city, all the dirt. How many people working from home still? How many people are using city vehicles and still working from home, just sitting parked in their driveway, using them for personal use, things like that, which are great questions, and wondering why we're not asking those questions, because this is a volunteer show where we report on the news. We don't basically, we're not the ones going out and getting the scoop, first of all, because I don't have the resources. It's just me. And it's enough to get up in the morning 2 hours early just to prepare the technical side of the broadcast and prepare a little bit so that way we know what we're talking about. I'm just looking at the news stories. How are we going to have this discussion? And that's what it is. It's a discussion. And so I hope the more we clarify what the show is, the more that people can understand it and take part. And I know there was a comment there saying, well, you can go down to City Hall and ask those same questions, which is true. And I think we need to start doing that as we see the collapse, not only of our civilization, Western civilization, but, within that, a collapse of journalism. There's less and less journalists out there now that Bell Media, who owns CTV, fired 4,800 mainly people in media, and just coming on the heels of 600 people from CBC, our state-sponsored media in Canada. And just before that, I think CTV had let go something like 1,500 people. So that's a lot of people in a country of maybe 40 million, kind of thing. It's a huge erosion of our journalism, and you know what happens when that happens. So anyways, we'll talk a little bit more about that and other things when we come back. Stick with us. It's going to be a great show. We're going to ask some tough questions of our city officials, those that were involved in trying to find our counselor when he was missing, how the search went, the investigation went, and how it ended up. Is it the last we're going to hear of it? Is that the end? Nothing to see here kind of thing. Let's wipe our hands and move on. All right. Is that what's going to happen? So we'll ask those questions and more when we come back. Right after this, we're going to have some weather, and we'll dive right into some local headlines. And so stick with us. It's going to be a great show. We'll be back right after this. All right, currently it's -3, -3 out there. Feels like -5. There is fog patches this morning. Mainly cloudy today, clearing this afternoon. Fog patches dissipating this morning. High of +3. Wind chill this morning, high of -4. And increasing cloudiness tonight. Flurries beginning after midnight. Local blowing snow overnight, gusting to 50 kilometers before the morning. Low of -12. Wind chill -14 overnight. Friday, clearing in the morning. The temperature will be falling to -15 in the morning and then steady with a wind chill near -24. So a little more nippy tomorrow. The high will be -14. It says that the clouds will be clearing. We'll see. Saturday, it says it's going to be totally sunny. Not a cloud in the sky, -6. And chance of flurries, +1. On Sunday, 60% chance of flurries. Mix of sun and cloud on Monday, high of 0. And a high of +6 on Tuesday. And a high of -2 on Wednesday, cloudy for both of those days. It's interesting weather these days. This satellite image was taken at 4 a.m. Bunch of clouds. That's the theme. That's the theme. A bunch of clouds is in your weather forecast. Temperatures and precipitation vary, but always usually a bunch of clouds. We'll be back with news, headlines, and more. Your Sudbury weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back right after this. Stick with us. It's going to be a great show. We'll ask some questions about what's going on. I have just as many questions as you, possibly. We'll have your comments and more when we come back right after this. Okay, and we have a few people joining on this morning. No show yesterday. That was due to a massive amount of homework that I had, and knowing that CKLU, this is the third morning that there's no CKLU, there's nothing on air. Apparently, they're rebooting some of their computers and dealing with some internet stuff, but looks like in the news they've been hacked or something, so maybe it has something to do with that. We're not sure. We're not sure about many things these days, and nobody's really out there asking the questions either, so we just have to speculate. And hopefully we're going to have comments today. It looks like they connected. So let's see here who we got, if they're going to come on. Yeah, there they are. They're just loading up now. Good morning, Judy, first to the Facebook party. As usual, thank you. Good morning, Judy, on this fine Thursday morning, February the 22nd, 2024. Marianne, good morning. Everyone from Barrie, liked and shared as usual. And Monique, good morning. Sudbury, smiley emoji. Belinda, positive statement of the day. Good morning. You cannot change the people around you, but you can change the people that you choose to be around. And that is so true. Surround yourself with like-minded people. Thank you so much for that, Belinda. Much appreciated. And that is so very true. Blessings. Good morning from Espanola. That's Denise. Surrounding yourself with good people is kind of like one of the best kept secrets around. And it will have if we can get to it at the end of the show, How to Keep Sane in an Insane World by Jordan Peterson. It's some kind of practical, as you would expect from him, practical insights into how to stay sane and what, as he usually does, define what sanity actually is and what we've kind of thought it was, and sometimes it's different. But if you're interested in that, you kind of struggle sometimes with, keeping your head on straight or making sense of the world, and it affects you, stay tuned for that. We'll have that at the end. A nice positive end to a rather depressing news day here in the city. So stick with us for that. Maurice, good morning. Smiley emoji, much appreciated. Hope you're having a great morning. Marianne says, sad for those counselors. Condolences to their family and friends. Yes, for sure. It's not every day you lose 2 city councilors in 2 weeks. So it's interesting nonetheless, regardless, and sad at the same time. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Sudbury campers. Thanks for being with us. Leandre, good morning. 2023 in the U.S., there were more immigrant childbirths than Americans. It sure looks like an invasion, and that I would have to agree with you on that. The West is changing by design. Obviously, it's policies, whether they're policies that aren't being upheld or they're policies that are being instituted that facilitate a very aggressive immigration to this country and to the United States, right? Illegal and legal, both. But yeah, so more childbirths from illegals than there were from American citizens in the U.S. in 2023. That is interesting. And I didn't know we were at that point already, but that is very interesting. Denise says, when it comes to media and you say Bell fired all those people, China did the same thing before they brought in their dictatorship. And the media, in a special way, those things in your hands, they'll be your master soon, or something very similar to that. Yeah, they got, they came out in defense of the media. The big government comes out and says, we need to support local media. I mean, Canadian media. And in the spirit of that, and what we see is the end result. So what you say and then what is the result are two different things, right? So you want to uphold media in Canada, and you want to support it. So the big bad tech companies, go after them, right? And turns out the big bad tech companies were the one thing that was keeping these people relevant, and their stories were being shared over the big bad Facebook. I have my own views on Facebook, by the way, and it's, it is what it is. It's a necessary evil, if you will. Great for keeping track of birthdays of friends and family and keeping in touch, and was great for sharing news as well before Bill C-11, Bill C-18 by our federal government. And then putting the power in the hands of the CRTC to govern and to oversee that. But we see the results. So you cannot share. You know how hard it was for me yesterday just to put a post up about Councillor Vagnini, the coroner's report on that, and Councillor Montpellier, just to get the word out. It simply would have just been a shared article before. Sudbury.com, Sudbury Star, CTV Northern Ontario, CBC Sudbury would have put up an article. I would have went through all 4 of them and said which one is more appropriate or the best one that I want to share on the show. I would have shared it on my Facebook. It would have went to all of our community. And then on the show this morning, I would have just simply went through those stories that I shared on Facebook. Very easy to share news. It then kept the reporters developing the news stories and making them relevant, because people would, see their stories and share them. So the news outlets would say, I can't fire you because look at your story just went viral. But now the government steps in and says, we want to get paid from these outlets, these platforms. If that indeed was the reason, which I am skeptical, actually, I don't believe it one bit, because you look at the results, because either it's incompetence or it's on purpose. And I think it's more on purpose than it is incompetence. Saying that the big tech companies have to pay these news outlets and this, that, and the other. So Facebook says, Google says, we'll give you $1 billion. And meanwhile, no one shares news from Google. It doesn't get shared from that. You got to go find it. It gets shared on social media platforms. Google is not a social media platform. Google is a search engine. So they go, okay, it looks like, okay, Google realized, this is a good policy and had to pay $1 billion, whatever. And then Facebook still says, no, we're not going to do that. So the end result is you can't share news in Canada. All the government funding that was given to all these news outlets, all of them, basically, didn't keep the jobs of the journalists. Once the news was not able to be shared anymore, people don't buy newspapers anymore. It's all online, right? So tech was changing, and it was changing to the point where, it's almost like when you had VHS tapes and then you had DVDs, you know what I mean? People weren't watching VHS anymore. It's the same thing. People aren't buying newspapers anymore. They're getting their news online, and they were mainly getting it from social media. The news outlets were producing it, but the means of sharing it was through social media. It, I would think, and I've never heard this analogy before, came to me this morning, it would be compared to the demolishing and making the printing press illegal 10 years after the printing press was invented. I would think so. For Canadians, it's like Justin Trudeau said, yeah, anyone who owns a printing press or whatever, the printing press manufacturers have to pay the people that are using them to publish their books, because obviously they have an advantage because they're the printing press and people are paying them to use their printing press. But meanwhile, the people saying, no, we like the idea of the printing press. That's where we're going to get our books. It's the only way people are going to read my material is if I print a bunch of books and sell them. The printing press owner goes, I'll just take my business to the United States or other places where there's more business. Anyways, you're Canada. You're barely a drop in the bucket in the world population. Anyways, so that's what it's like. It's like destroying the printing press 10 years after it's made. Good job. Thanks for that. And now we see the loss of jobs in the media by design or incompetence, on purpose, or just not knowing what you're doing and the destruction that you're causing through your policies, right? So here you have, not being able to share news anymore, which not only hurts just this show alone, it was so easy to do that, but just getting the news out about. And now you have police saying, nothing to see here, move on, and no journalists really to ask any questions about it. Why aren't we hearing anything? Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. Brian says, I just wanted to put it out there that I'm disappointed with the lack of reporting on the latest press release regarding Michael Vagnini, and I would share your sentiment on that one, Brian, for sure. I was telling my friend this morning, with all these men coming in and women are going to have multiple husbands. Yeah, the immigration, the mass immigration, apparently in the United States being reported that it's mainly military-aged men that are coming over the border, not families, not women and children. There are some, but it's mainly single, young, athletic men that are in good shape, military age. It's got to tell you something. Denise, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being with us, Denise. Brian also says, this is going to be one of those nothing to see here, folks, kind of story, talking about Michael Vagnini. You are so correct on that one. Something is off about it all, Marianne, for sure. Claire, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Denise, remember watching war in Syria, the other places the media went down before the war started. Just an observation. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to connect some dots here, right? It's all we can do. We have very few ways to get very credible information, especially these days, and getting to be worse. It's we're not, Justin Trudeau talks about democracy so much and like, oh, I'm so disappointed Bell fired all those people after I gave them millions and millions of dollars. You're really disappointed. There are already calling for a potential forest fires. Yeah, this summer I heard that on the news yesterday as well. That could be worse than last year. Love who they predict those things. Good morning, Amy. Thanks for being on this morning. Glad to have you with us. Yeah, this whole fire thing. They're now catching a bunch of people that were responsible for many of the fires last year. Not in the news. Well, there's no one to report on it, I guess. Less and less people. So, but they're arresting people that are starting multiple fires in multiple areas, including Canada. In Nova Scotia, one just recently. But that's not being reported on. It's still going along the idea that the world, is climate change is affecting and starting fires and blah, blah, blah. Like Fort McMurray and other places, fire is also a purification of some regions. Won't build until the ground is burnt. Just saying. Jesse says everyone and everything can change. Saying it can't is just being stubborn for sure. Yeah, you don't want to have a defeatist mentality and just it's done. There's nothing you can do. You always have to have hope. It's good to have hope. Jordan Peterson will bring that towards the end of the show today. Hopefully. Good morning, Charlie. Seeing a few people that I haven't quite seen either on the show in some time or new to the show. So thanks. If you're new to the show, welcome. Thanks for being with us. Thanks, Charlie, for checking in. And Marianne. Okay, when people are having conversations between each other, I'm not able to tell with the technology I have, so try to move on. Yeah, if we worry about what others think of us, we'll always be their prisoner. Very true, Belinda. You got 2 positive statements of the day. Better for your mental health. More on that from Jordan Peterson coming up soon. We just want to start moving on. Get your comments up on the screen. Oh, that's interesting. When they sign NDAs. Monique, good rising, everyone. And Liette, good morning, everyone. Good morning, guys. Thanks for being on. For sure. So just getting comments up on here. It looks like Brian is sharing a link here, so I would encourage anyone to get on and check that out. We want to move on and start in with the news because it obviously we got quite a bit to cover here. And good morning, Nancy. Thanks for being on with us. We really appreciate that. And encourage everyone to comment, even though I'm kind of just going through everyone's now, trying to get to the story as I'm seeing some of the comments on here. Some humor in some of them. Thanks for commenting. Like I said, continue to do that. And I see Miles that you're on. Good morning, Miles. Hope everything went well with your health and your procedure. Appreciate you being on. Always have great comments. Good morning, Vin. Thanks for being with us today. Along with Penny, I see you here. Good morning. Okay, we got quite a few people on. Let's just jump into Councillor Michael Vagnini and the coroner's report. Evelyn, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm just seeing people coming on here. I just want to make sure I get everybody that are joining us. I usually do that. There might come a time when there's too many, and that's fine. It's a good problem to have. Good morning, Evelyn. Good morning, Shirley. Happy Thursday. Okay, yeah, we just pretty much made it through. So the 2 stories of the day, main ones, we'll just stick with those. There are other ones. I didn't realize Laurentian University is having problems with their internet, and that's possibly affecting CKLU and why we don't have a signal at the moment. Trying to get word from the general manager on that. But we are live on Facebook.com, YouTube.com. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow, all of that stuff. This was from this was yesterday. I didn't even get to it because we didn't have a show. From Sudbury.com. information on City Councillor Michael Vagnini's cause of death won't be made public. This from the Chief Coroner's Office in Sudbury. After searching for more than 2 weeks, Vagnini's body was discovered in late afternoon on February 13th. His truck and remains were located shortly before 2:30 p.m. at a seasonal residence on Reserve Camp Road on Atikamekshing Anishinaabeg First Nation. After the police located Vagnini, the police's missing person investigation became a death investigation led by the coroner's office. And Sudbury.com spoke to Stephanie Ray, issues manager for the office of the chief coroner, who said death investigations like these are similar to medical files and are kept confidential. We won't release the reports publicly, such as what the cause of and manner of death would be, she said. We give all that information to the next of kin. Good morning, Alan. Thanks for being on. First time seeing you on the show. Thank you very much. Yes, and Miles, I did see that article on Stephen Harper visiting Israel. So I guess it's just status quo. When there's someone in the public, they're just going to follow what they normally do. They're not going to go and publish everybody's death publicly, right? The reasons for it. And should there be a difference when it's a public figure, someone who is in public office, whether it's local, provincial, federal? Should they have the same protocol when it comes to cause of death? Let's say they were murdered, right? Let's just say someone was murdered and more questions needed to be asked, but because it's so confidential, it wouldn't be found out kind of thing because it was all kept under lock and key kind of thing, right? The more public something is sometimes, the more someone could come forward and say something. Can we mandate cause of death, Vin says? So if there are any of the members of family, next of kin, that feel they want to share anything, and because it would be your right to do that, I would think. Your right, not the public's right, or the coroner or police in this case, to release that information. Feel free. Email me at sudburynews@gmail.com. Message me on Facebook, facebook.com/SudburyNews. And we'll do our best to get to the bottom of if there is anything. Like, it just leaves a lot of questions. He's gone missing for 2 weeks. They were searching in the very area he was found for 2 weeks with drones and helicopters and mass amounts of people going through the area like a grid. Never found him, but then 2 weeks later, he's right in the same area, just in someone's driveway. He's outside of his truck. Like, his truck's there. He's outside of his truck. That's the very area they said they were going to be looking at. And I have maps too. Maybe I'll get the map of the last road he was on, known to be on McCharles Lake Road. And you can see there's no way in and out of McCharles Lake Road. He couldn't have driven from McCharles Lake Road to the road he was on. He couldn't have done that because there's no connection of roads there. He would have had to go back out to the highway again and then proceed east and then turn down the road he was found on, which is only like one road down from the road he was last seen on. Like, this isn't far away. You look at the map, you could probably walk there in half an hour from his location where he was last seen on the road. So cameras, if we're looking at cameras, could have got him going back out onto the highway because he wouldn't have been able to drive from McCharles Lake Road to the road he was on. So I have questions, right? And everyone should too. And the more of this kind of stuff is, not public, it, to me, just makes me have more questions. Greater Sudbury Police have officially reported that there was no foul play involved in the death of City Councillor Michael Vagnini. So they have announced it. They've declared it. You need to believe it. A media release issued by Greater Sudbury Police Service on this February 21st, yesterday, stated the post-mortem was conducted the day before, February 20th, confirming that his death was attributed to medical causes. What does that even mean, confirming? So it means that's what they thought originally. So without, that's the thing. Confirming means they've already had something in mind ahead of time. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to go into an investigation with, you ever hear that term, if you assume something? What happens if you assume? You make you know what I mean? So it's confirming that his death was attributed to medical causes. What does that even mean? Right? So we don't know. The details, which will remain private in consultation with his family. A search and rescue effort that lasted a little more than 2 weeks ended February 13th when Councillor Ward 2 Michael Vagnini's remains were found at a seasonal residence on Reserve Camp Road, Atikameksheng, Anishinaabe First Nation. Atikameksheng, Anishinaabe First Nation. Sudbury.com reported yesterday that Vagnini's cause of death wouldn't be made public, according to the Chief Coroner's Office. For in-depth coverage of the full investigation, okay, you can find Sudbury.com's interview with lead investigator, Detective Sergeant Barry Ornella. Now, is this recent, or is this the one that we've already looked into? I don't know. We once again wish to extend our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Michael Vagnini, and we continue to ask that their privacy be respected during this difficult time, Greater Sudbury Police Service said, which means don't be asking them any questions. Back off, bucko. Don't ask the family. Respect what they're going through. Don't be trying to say, yeah, but what if, but when, but how, but who? Don't be saying that. You need to respect that the family's wishes. But we don't even know if it's the family's wishes. It's the Greater Sudbury Police's wishes that you don't talk to the family. We don't know what the family thinks. They haven't released a media release that I know of. So, I don't know. Nancy's saying, doesn't it take a few weeks for an autopsy? So it took about a week to get the results out of that. But yeah, so it just confirms, anyways, they had nothing to see here. It was a medical issue, right? Oh, some take 6 months. I did not know that, to do autopsies. But again, right, if they already thought there was nothing to see, it would be quick, because there's nothing really to see, so nothing to find. If it's already just going to confirm what you thought in the first place, it was just a medical cause. What does that even mean? Wouldn't any death be a medical cause? Even shooting yourself in the face? Like, you died because you lost the blood in your face and your brain was gone. That's a medical, right? I don't know what that even means. We'd also like to extend our gratitude to the Ontario Provincial Police as well as the Atikameksheng Anishinaabe Police for their collaboration on this investigation. So they're congratulating everybody. However, we have no information. Yeah, February 14th. It's the same interview that we looked at here before, where basically I was questioning how they could have been looking for 2 weeks and 2 days in the same area, and his truck was found one street over from where his last known whereabouts was. Right? And you had OPP, you had Anishinaabe Police, you had Sudbury Regional Police, you had all these, task forces out there looking. and weren't able to find anything, which to me, I just find interesting that you have that many people out looking, and they had, what is it here? They had the forensics unit, patrol operations, major crime team, missing persons unit, rural division, our search and rescue personnel, our media relations, our traffic management unit, helicopters, drones, and he was one street over from where he was last seen. So that's interesting. Like I say, it deserves more explanation, I would think, from those that were conducting that, whoever was in charge of that search. If I was that person's boss, I would want to have those questions answered myself. But it looks like we probably won't. So Sudbury Star also reporting on the same story, which is the same outcome because it is the same thing from the same people, not much being given, right? Vagnini's death due to, quote, medical causes, unquote. Postmortem reveals. Medical causes. If anyone wants to Google what does death due to medical causes mean, and let us know in the comments. Maybe it is specific. Maybe it's just I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know. Medical causes. Lorraine, good morning. Thanks for being on. 2 weeks to find a body. They were avidly searching for that. Was laying in plain view. Makes zero sense. Something is off. So I'm not the only one. Okay, thank you, Lorraine, for confirming that. For confirming that my thinking isn't off. They confirmed his death was due to a medical issue. Confirmed it. They whatever. Okay. So a postmortem conducted Tuesday confirmed it was attributed to medical causes. They said on their Twitter account, only Vagnini's family being appraised of the details through private consultation, police said. Now, we know a book of condolences is available at several locations in the city for people to share their thoughts about the popular Walden politician. Whether or not you think that there's kind of something fishy or what, regardless, the end result is he's no longer with us. And I think it would be a great gesture to sign that book. For what, I didn't know him personally, but from what I've heard from people that did, he was just an upstanding individual that served his community in a way that they appreciated. Now, Mayor Paul Lefebvre said in a release, in the wake of this tragic loss, we commemorate a man whose profound generosity and unwavering dedication to this community will never be forgotten, said Mayor Paul Lefebvre in a release. I encourage all those who wish to extend their condolences and provide words of comfort to the family and friends of the late Councillor Vagnini to visit one of the various locations in our community over coming weeks. So just to let everyone know, if I was the mayor, which I'm not and will never be, I would say the same thing and say, and I feel strongly that we need to look into, for not only the family, but for the individuals in our community who have questions, we need to find more answers in the investigation of this fine individual. We owe it to him to have answers. So I would add that. But he hasn't. He doesn't have those questions. He's not wondering. What was he told? Is he part of the family? Was he told the reason for the death? Do you have special mayoral powers to know medical information? If it's one of your counselors, the cause of death of them? I would want to know, just because I wouldn't, He shouldn't have special powers to know. It's only the family. He's not family. So he doesn't even know. So if I was him, I'd be questioning, right? Oh, Cheryl, watching from South Africa. Well, thanks for being with us. I would have to think it's probably warmer than we are here. Thanks for being on. So you have from ChatGPT, if an autopsy report states that the cause of death is medical causes, it typically means that the examination did not reveal any external or traumatic factors contributing to the person's death. Instead, the focus is on internal factors related to the person's health and medical conditions. Medical causes may include various diseases, organ failures, infections, or other physiological abnormalities that led to the individual's demise. This broad category is often used when the specific underlying condition or disease process I didn't want to say the wrong word there because it would change the whole context. It's often used when the specific underlying condition or disease process is identified, but it may not be further categorized into a more specific cause. To fully understand the details, it is advisable to consult with a medical professional or forensic pathologist who conducted the autopsy. Well, yeah, they're not saying anything. They will provide more specific information about the individual case and clarify any uncertainties related to the cause of death. And I would think, according to Greater Sudbury Police's statement, that is going to the family. Fentanyl OD? Could be, right? We don't know, right? And does that still eliminate the idea of foul play just because the cause of death is a medical issue? Like if I slipped something into someone's drink and they died of a drug overdose, that could be a medical issue, right? But I didn't do that on my own. Someone did it to me. So you need to dispel any foul play in any way, shape, or form. 2, as an investigator, I would hope, get Joe Kenda up here. He's only out of 3, he solved like 300 cases in his career. He only hasn't solved 2 homicide cases. 35 today, John. Happy birthday. That's a good age, actually. I wish I could have stayed 35. Happy birthday. Their coroner could not have done a proper investigation in so little time. Okay, so there are a few people who feel that this is, you would think someone of a high profile or semi-high. I guess it didn't get the national coverage that you would think. A missing counselor then found dead after a search of 2 weeks of every resource the city and OPP and everyone had, and he was found on the next street over. You'd think that'd be national news. And then, okay, well, what was the cause of death? You'd think there'd be a lot of interest in that in national media. But I guess as they were all getting their layoff notices, not too many people were all that interested in it. They're more interested in their next job or how they're going to put food on the table. Yes, you can see the love of 35 going on here. It shows the demographic, the main demographic of our show. You might be one of the youngest. Okay, so there's a book of condolences going around. And then also in the midst of this, Councillor Montpellier passes away. Now we do know that he was, he had diabetes, and I heard, and again, that he may have even lost one of his legs recently. This is through a good source, but not publicly, not public knowledge. He didn't come out and declare it or anything. And so I do know he had some health issues in that regard, and he did pass away yesterday. And so it's an interesting time in the greater city of Sudbury. Many interesting things have happened in the last couple of years and continue to happen. There's no shortage of interesting stuff going on here. And with that, let's check in on a little bit of trying to stay sane through it all, because a lot of us, it's not easy. And I do have a video here I wanted to share from Jordan Peterson. He's talking a little bit about how to stay sane. And I might have to just kind of come in at some point and, I might not be able to get through the whole thing. So I apologize for that. I thought I would leave enough time for that. But Jordan Peterson, if you haven't heard of him, a University of Toronto professor, also spent some time, I believe it was at Harvard. He's very renowned for his work in psychology and in just mainstream self-help now, trying to help many people. A lot of young men are attracted to his message because there's a lot of depleted young men out there who don't have a sense of purpose anymore because of societal social constructs that are teaching young men not to be young men, type of thing. And I saw it in university just recently. I was constantly being put down for my being male, and I was one of the main reasons for anything bad in the world. And so I do see why they're attracted to his message. But anyways, he's not talking about that here. He's talking about just any average people that trying to make sense of the world, and sometimes it makes you pretty depressed. And so here's Jordan Peterson talking about that. Says a lot of big words, but get your dictionary.
One of the things that I've come to realize, it's taken a long time, it's unfolded over a long time, is that our Protestant liberal definition of sanity is wrong. We tend to think of sanity in terms of internal psychological organization. So you're sane if your psyche is well constituted. You could say you're sane if you're biologically healthy in relationship to neurological function. It's an individual thing. A well-constituted psyche means you're sane. And the idea of self-actualization sort of goes along with that. If you're a sane person, you're a sane individual. And sanity is the description of the well-constituted individual. And so one of the corollaries of that might be that you could regard any social constraint on the flowering of your individuality as antithetical to your sanity. And I would say corrosive criticisms of social institution tend to presume that axiomatically. That's right. Nothing should interfere with my self-actualization. All social constraint is antithetical to that spontaneous organization and to sanity itself. It's like, yeah, hold on a minute there, cowboy. I don't think you've got the notion of sanity right here. It's too atomistic, it's too individual. So let me ask you this. How sane are you going to be in a terrible marriage? And I don't care how well constituted you are individually. This is a different question. So, when people would come to me and they were depressed, sometimes I would try to find out, well, always, are you depressed or do you just have a horrible life? And those are not the same question, because if you're depressed, you have a life that in principle should work, but isn't. And so you come and say, look, I've got a lot of things going for me. I've got a good job, I've got a good family, my wife loves me, but man, I'm miserable all the time. It's like, okay, well, let's delve into that a bit more deeply. But that kind of sounds like depression. But then you might come and say, well, I'm miserable, I'm suffering, I don't even want to be alive. And then I might ask, well, do you have an intimate partner? Well, no, not really. And I have had a history of catastrophic relationships. Do you have any friends? Well, I have this one person I phone like once every month or so. But other than that, no, I don't really see anyone. Well, do you have any close family? No, my family's pretty fractured. I don't get along with my mom and dad. I don't see my sisters or my siblings much. It's like, well, how about a job? Or how about a career, or failing that, a job? It's like, well, I've always kind of been underemployed and I just lost my job, and that's not going very well, and so on. You can walk through someone's life and you can find out if they're reasonably embedded in a hierarchy of social institutions. And if the answer is no, no intimate partner, no family, no children, no friends, no job, no career, no educational pathway, no engagement in civic responsibility, let's say, no church attendance, no spiritual life, no routine. It's like, well, you're not depressed, you just have a horrible life. Multidimensionally. Like, it's no wonder you're depressed. There's nothing in your life that is working. But it's interesting because that's not exactly a diagnosis at the level of the individual. It's a diagnosis in relationship to the relationship between the individual and this structure of containing social institutions. One of the things, I have a program online called the Self-Authoring Program, and one of the things it does is have people develop a vision for the future. And it's a very useful thing to do. And if you spent 90 minutes doing it, by the way, future authoring at selfauthoring.com, it would change your life, especially if you're not doing very well. It doesn't do wonderful things for people who are already doing well, but that doesn't matter because they're already doing well. It does wonderful things for people who aren't doing very well. And it asks you, it's a meaning of life program in some sense, but it's practical. It's like, well, do you have an intimate relationship? And if not, would you like to? And if you did like to, if you do like to, what would that look like in principle? Same with your friendship, same with your job or career, your educational opportunities. It fragments your life or differentiates your life into practical domains and says, well, you know, you probably need these things because most people do. And maybe you don't need all of them, and fair enough, because you're so creative or deviant or whatever it is that you think you are that isn't like other people, and sometimes that's true, but most of the time, if you don't have an intimate partner and you don't have a family and you don't have any friends and you don't have a career or a job or any civic involvement or any involvement, let's say, with religious institutions, and you don't have any creative striving, all you've got left is pain. And so that's what you have. And so here's a different way of thinking about sanity. Sanity isn't being well constituted as an atomized individual. Sanity is what makes itself manifest if you're properly situated in a hierarchy of social order. Now, some of that's going to be internal, you know, because you're a mess of fragmented subpersonalities. You can be, right? Because anger can pull you in one direction, and anxiety can pull you in another direction, and impulsive enthusiasm can pull you in another direction, and lust can pull you in a direction. Those are all subpersonalities in some real sense. They're ways of perceiving and acting in the world. And you need to integrate them within yourself so that as an individual, you're integrated. But the nature of that integration is dependent on your integration within the broader social context. And so you can think of sanity as a distributed phenomenon. And that's another reason you don't want to casually denigrate social institutions.
So you get the point. Jordan Peterson talking about, I guess, just a lot of practical things. I think sometimes we make bigger things out of stuff. And do you got a friend? Do you got good social network? Are you kind of in with, you know, do you have confidant, people you can trust, someone you can turn to? Do you have a path for your life? Do you have goals? Are you achieving them? You know, some really practical things there. And it's all about making sure that you're okay, making sure that then you could then move on and help other people as well. So it's the basic philosophy of, you know, he simplifies it to clean your room. That's in one of his books or whatever. Just clean your room, because it's a good way to start. Start by cleaning your room. Make your bed, clean your dresser, clean your floor, organize, and you feel more organized. It's something simple like that. Then you start your life out. But little things you can do, and then get involved and find a life with meaning, whatever that is for you. A life with meaning, and find meaningful people to do it with, and make a difference. Leave the world better than you left it. When you go into the kitchen, leave that kitchen cleaner or more organized than when you went into it, or a bedroom, or a relationship. Leave the relationship in a more positive way than you entered it. So it's a really kind of interesting philosophy, and definitely routines, positive routines can make a big difference in your life. Thanks for that, Denise. And thanks everyone for joining us. Gotta go now. Have to head to work. Gotta make sure to put food on my table and feed my family and things like that, just like y'all have to do as well. So thanks for being with us. And we'll be back tomorrow with some of the same, maybe follow up on some of the stuff we talked about today and more. Your comments on Facebook and YouTube so far. We'll see if CKLU will be back up and running by then. We're not sure. We'll have more on that and reasons why tomorrow as well. So have a great and wonderful Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow from our other studio. And yeah, ciao, everyone. Have a great one.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.